Sophie Cunningham's response to all this, in terms of her tweets, like, if you guys didn't see Sophie Cunningham's retweets, Sophie Cunningham obviously responded with the shrug Instagram post, but has responded to the petition by just retweeting a freaking post about her jerseys being sold out. That is a response. That is quote tweeting the petition. Like, that is the best way of going about it.
They started a petition to ban Sophie Cunningham like she's some kind of Marvel villain. And her response? Let's just say it wasn't an apology. It was a highlight reel with extra sauce. If you thought she'd cry, think again. She brought receipts, attitude, and a mic drop so loud it echoed through the WNBA. This isn't damage control, it's diva-level domination. Buckle up, because Sophie just turned cancel culture into comedy gold, and you won't believe how...
Lads, I need to talk about this right here. So yesterday's game was obviously funny. Yesterday's game was obviously crazy. But have you guys not seen the petition? The petition, lads. So if you guys didn't see, obviously, there is the Dallas Wings fan page. Take the All-Star game out of Indiana. I'm serious. This is about player safety. Dude, don't worry. Neither JC or Marina's making the All-Star team. Players will be safe. The only player on the Dallas Wings that's going to make the All-Star team is Paige Becker.
She saw the petition, laughed mid-lunge, and retweeted it like it was fan mail. Because Sophie Cunningham isn't just unbothered. She's now thriving off the drama, like it's her pregame protein shake. They tried to paint her as the villain in some overhyped basketball soap opera, and she leaned in with the kind of energy that says, "You rang? This isn't a redemption arc. This is full-blown retaliation, but with glitter and a crossover."
All-Star break in Indiana, and I'm like, man, Dejanay Carrington needs to work her way back into the starting lineup for the worst team in the WNBA before she even thinks about being an All-Star this year. But yeah, it is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
And that tweet? Oh, she didn't just retweet it, she blessed it. Like a royal decree from the Queen of Pettyland. It was the digital equivalent of cracking her knuckles and saying, "Let's dance." Because if you thought she was going to shrink under the weight of public outrage, you must be new here. Sophie Cunningham doesn't fold. She retaliates with tempo, with fire, and with a perfectly placed side-eye.
Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of Sophie Cunningham. Her jersey is the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA. Sold out. Now, why is that significant? I'll tell you. Because her jersey surpassed the all-time woman, Caitlin Clark. The most popular woman ever in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, got her jersey surpassed by Sophie Cunningham. Why? Because Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark.
The petition itself, a masterpiece of pearl-clutching hysteria. Fans screeching for bans like it's a dystopian version of American Idol, where instead of singing, you get canceled for existing too confidently. But Sophie isn't dirty, she's reactive. There's a difference between chaos and consequence, and people seem to forget that when she gets physical, it's almost always because someone else got messy first. She's not throwing the first punch, she's just returning the favor, with interest and a little extra spice.
See, so I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm just saying. Sophie Cunningham stood on business. So all these damn petitions and all these little stupid things they're trying to do, these little freaking fines, we don't care about none of that. Now, just like Rachel said, your boy John Liquidator, I'm not condoning any violence whatsoever. But what I can tell you is that Sophie Cunningham stood on business and did the human thing to do.
Because if you mess with her teammates, Sophie's going full medieval. You so much as breathe on her squad the wrong way and she's coming at you like a human freight train powered by loyalty and fury. It's not about fouls, it's about family. The league can debate the rules all day, but when someone goes at her girls, Sophie's not asking questions, she's making statements. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Sophie Cunningham has become the WNBA's most unlikely fan favorite. Not for the Fever Dream Brigade clinging to Caitlin Clark like she's a one-woman revolution, but for literally everyone else. Sophie's the anti-hero we didn't know we needed. She's got the aggression of a linebacker, the Twitter finesse of a meme lord, and the emotional range of a woman who's had enough. It's a Cinderella story, except Cinderella's wearing sneakers. Body-checking defenders and calling out hypocrisy mid-game. They wanted her silenced, and instead she turned into a headline machine with a highlight reel full of vengeance. She lashed out, not out of bitterness, but because she'd had it up to here with the narrative. For months, she's been watching from the sidelines while her teammate Caitlin gets thrown to the wolves, every move overanalyzed, every bump labeled a conspiracy.
Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of Sophie Cunningham. Her jersey is the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA. Sold out. Now, why is that significant? I'll tell you. Because her jersey surpassed the all-time woman, Caitlin Clark. The most popular woman ever in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, got her jersey surpassed by Sophie Cunningham. Why? Because Sophie Cunningham stood up for Caitlin Clark. She did.
The double standards were practically dripping from the arena lights. When Fever players get physical, passionate, gritty, that's just basketball. But when Sophie raises a brow or clears space with her shoulder, suddenly it's a felony, a crisis, a petition-worthy moment. Someone please explain how Sheldon lowering her shoulder into Sophie was just competitive spirit. But Sophie's response looked like a war crime on the timeline. Is it selective vision or just bad acting? Because let's talk about Sheldon for a moment. This wasn't just a little contact. Sheldon came in with the energy of someone trying to bulldoze a brick wall with her torso. That shoulder wasn't lowered, it was weaponized. And Sophie, she took the hit, blinked once, and responded the way any self-respecting enforcer does, with an emotional sledgehammer. Because if you're going to test her balance, don't cry foul when she resets the scale. It's not aggression, it's calibration. But here's the kicker. Sophie never wanted to be the league's rebel sweetheart. She just wanted some consistency, a little fairness, maybe a rule book that applies to everyone equally instead of being rewritten nightly depending on jersey color and Twitter trends. But the moment she realized the bullies weren't going away, she decided to swing back, and not just on the court.
Guess whose jersey sold out today? The one and only Sophie Cunningham, aka the Enforcer and Caitlin Clark's bodyguard. Sophie Cunningham defended the face of basketball, and America was in love. I've honestly never seen so many people agree on one thing on Twitter, and they did last night. And also realizing that you wouldn't want to fight Sophie Cunningham after seeing this headlock.
Off court, she's been roasting people with the finesse of a stand-up comic on a vengeance tour. The retweet was only the beginning. Now she's turned her social media feed into a curated exhibit of shade. Clapbacks? She's got a gallery. Eye roll emojis? She's Picasso. It's not just a feed, it's a mood board for everyone who's ever been unfairly labeled the villain when they were just setting boundaries aggressively. And it's working. The fans have flipped the script. Suddenly, people are wearing her jersey, stitching her plays into TikToks, defending her like she's the last hope for basketball integrity. She's no longer just a player. She's a vibe. The kind of athlete who doesn't need a PR team to handle Backlash because she is the Backlash. She's dragging the double standards into the spotlight and dunking on them emotionally with receipts. Meanwhile, the haters, spiraling. They don't know what to do with a woman who refuses to wilt. The more noise they make, the louder her cheers get. Every clip of her retaliation gets reposted like it's a trailer for the sequel to Atomic Blonde. Every game is now a showdown between people rooting for justice and others still clutching their pearls because someone played defense with passion.
I am sorry, bro. That was honorable what she had done for Caitlin, bro. What did Rachel Dementa say? What did Rachel say about this?
If the refs are not going to do their job, the players are going to have to be the enforcers themselves. This game was chippy from the beginning, and the refs did not do their job. JC Sheldon...
Sophie's not out here throwing elbows for fun. She's defending her people. When Caitlin took hits, who spoke up? Who stepped up? Sophie. She saw the whispers, the cheap shots, the subtle fouls no one wanted to call, and said, "Not on my watch." And yeah, maybe it got physical. Maybe she sent a message, but that message was loud and clear. You can push us, but we push back harder. And somehow, in the middle of all this chaos, she's become the WNBA's new symbol of unapologetic power. Not because she asked for it, but because she earned it. On the court, in the chaos, with every shoulder check and snarky tweet. She didn't start the fire, but she definitely learned how to cook with it. Because what the haters don't realize is that you can't cancel someone who's already cashed in on their villain arc. Sophie leaned in, she made it fashionable, and now the very people who wanted her gone have to watch her climb the ranks, not just as a player, but as a phenomenon. So go ahead, pull up the petition, watch the signatures roll in like digital tears, because the more they protest, the more power she gathers. She's not just surviving the noise, she's conducting the orchestra, and if you think this is the end, think again. Sophie's just getting started.
I don't understand how she ain't got 1 million followers or more by now. I've never really had an opinion on NBA or WNBA because I've just never cared to watch it. It's always been boring. Since Caitlin Clark, it has been interesting to watch. And now Sophie Cunningham, she don't play about her teammate. These girls, this combo makes it so worth watching. I heard she's a black belt too. What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? You go, girl. Everybody go follow Sophie. Maybe one day I'll get to come watch y'all.
And just when the smoke from the petition bonfire started to clear, here comes the main event. Sheldon thundering towards Sophie like a linebacker chasing a snack, only for Sophie to master the ancient art of momentum judo. She didn't flop. Please put some respect on it. She strategically absorbed Sheldon's overcooked shoulder like a seasoned chaos connoisseur. She saw that runaway train coming and thought, you know what? Let's make this theatrical. Boom, down she goes. Controlled demolition. Graceful, iconic. Basketball's version of a trust fall with zero trust. And somehow, despite the replay showing Sophie's ribcage getting rebranded by a driving shoulder, the refs stood there blinking like deer who just realized the headlights were the rulebook they forgot to read. Because if common sense were in play, whistles would have sounded like a marching band on caffeine, but instead, crickets. A whole silent film from the officiating crew. Let's talk about the referees. Those glorified traffic cones and stripes who watched Sheldon plow through Sophie and thought, seems fine. Their job was to de-escalate. Instead, they brought folding chairs to the WWE match and forgot which team was actually getting jumped. Mabry poked Sophie in the eye with the delicacy of someone trying to perform laser surgery blindfolded, and still, no whistles, no consequences, not even a timeout for bad manners.
It was all game, folks. All game. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever were getting checked. All game. The Indiana Fever were getting punked. All game. The referees let this physical style of basketball continue and continue and continue and continue and continue and continue. And eventually, Sophie Cunningham had enough. Oh yeah. Sophie Cunningham had enough. Folks, shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to get treated like a little sister anymore, like a little brother anymore. We are going to start being the ones that say, you know what? We're not going to start the fight, but we damn sure will finish the fight. Sophie Cunningham.
Then came the shove. No, not the polite kind. We're talking full force shoulder physics from two separate directions, like a clumsy physics experiment gone rogue. And what happened? Nothing. Nada. Mabry, still in the game. Sheldon, free to continue her personal demolition tour. Sophie, left to fend for herself like the only adult at a middle school food fight. The irony? The league decided to do their best impression of, sorry we missed your call, after the game. That's right, the magical post-game upgrade. The oopsie, we just reviewed the footage from 8 different angles and realized, oops, that was bad. It's like giving someone a Band-Aid after a shark bite. Thanks, but where were you when Sophie got double-tagged like a character in a dystopian dodgeball match? Upgrading fouls after the game is the sports equivalent of sending thoughts and prayers after a house fire you started. It does nothing. It's a PR move disguised as justice, and everybody knows it. What Sophie needed was protection in the moment. What she got was a crash course in how not to trust officials who treat egregious fouls like mild inconveniences. The eye poke alone should have drawn blood and a technical. Instead, it drew yawns. The two-handed shove that followed, that was a full-body exorcism, and still, no whistle, no flagrant. Just Sophie blinking through her contact lenses and wondering what century the refs were refereeing from.
What Sophie Cunningham did, she stood on business, bro. Sophie Cunningham stood on business about her dear friend Caitlin Clark, bro. And that was honorable what she did, bro. That was honorable. I'm sorry, bro. I will forever justify this. I am sorry, bro. That was honorable what she had done for Caitlin, bro.
And then, the cherry on top, Mabry's blindside shove. If you blinked, you missed it. But don't worry, Sophie didn't. Neither did the cameras. It wasn't just dirty, it was sneaky. The kind of hit you deliver when you think no one's watching. Except everyone was. And the refs still did less than nothing. At this point, the only thing getting ejected were fans' hopes for fair officiating. Let's be clear, Sophie didn't retaliate. She could have. Oh, she could have. She's got the temperament of a wildcat in heels when provoked. But she didn't swing. She didn't shove. She didn't poke anyone back. She let the chaos unfold and stayed upright until Sheldon made staying upright impossible. That's restraint. That's professionalism. And what does she get for her trouble? A highlight reel of being bodied while the refs sip invisible tea courtside. Meanwhile, Mabry and Sheldon walked away like they just completed a group project where Sophie played the role of piñata. No techs, no ejections, just more minutes on the clock and a growing list of fouls the officials couldn't be bothered to acknowledge. The funniest part? After all of that, the league's brilliant solution was to upgrade the fouls post-game, as if that somehow fixes the imbalance. Congratulations, your trauma has been retroactively validated.
Now everybody knows who Sophie Cunningham is. Everybody wants a piece of Sophie Cunningham. Her jersey is the #1 selling jersey in the WNBA. Sold out. Now, why is that significant?
Here's a participation ribbon. It's the ultimate non-solution, like realizing you gave the wrong person a parking ticket and deciding to keep the ticket but frown harder. And it's not like this was an isolated incident. Oh no, this is a pattern, a playbook of inconsistency that's got players like Sophie doing double duty, trying to win games while also defending themselves from tactical assaults that come gift-wrapped as competitive spirit. If Sheldon had lowered her shoulder on anyone else, say a Fever player, the game would have stopped. The sky would have darkened, the post-game panel would have hosted an emergency summit. But because it was Sophie, radio silence. At this point, it's not just incompetence, it's selective incompetence, because the inconsistencies are too specific, too frequent, and far too convenient. If Sophie breathes wrong, she's a menace. If someone else launches her into the third row, just part of the game. The double standard's so thick you could ice a cake with it. And yet, here's Sophie, still standing, still tweeting, still showing up to every game like the walking embodiment of try me. Because for every ridiculous foul she absorbs, for every non-call that lets someone else take a free shot, she gets tougher, smarter, sharper. She's not bitter. She's bulletproof, the kind of athlete who turns officiating failures into character arcs.
Play with the Fever because, #1, you're going to play on national television every game. That helps your brand. You come to play with the Fever because you're playing with Caitlin Clark. You become friends with one of the most powerful, popular athletes in America. But then there's always that moment. And for Sophie Cunningham, that moment occurred the other day with a takedown, a grab. It was perceived that she was protecting Clark. Wasn't really that, but that's all right. Let perception.
And let's not pretend fans aren't seeing it. They are. Every clip, every freeze frame, every replay breakdown on TikTok dissecting how a poke, a shove, and a body slam somehow equaled play on. People are no longer just watching the game, they're auditing it. They're tracking fouls like courtroom stenographers and demanding better. Sophie's not just playing basketball anymore, she's starring in a full-blown procedural about injustice, and the receipts are everywhere. This is no longer about one player's temper or one moment of aggression. This is about a pattern of passive oversight that puts players in harm's way while pretending to care in the post-game paperwork. The league wants intensity, but only from the right people. They want drama, but only if it fits the pre-approved narrative. Sophie didn't fit. so they tried to box her in. Instead, she broke the box, used it as a podium, and lit the whole thing on fire with her next tweet. And still, no apology from the refs, no real accountability, just the soft hum of upgraded fouls, and a shrug that says, "We'll do better next time," while doing the exact same thing in the next game. If justice were a jersey, it would be sitting on the bench with an ice pack. Sophie Cunningham is done waiting for fairness. She's rewriting the rulebook one collision at a time.